Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to this session on play and well-being. My name is Lois Holzman. I'm your host and moderator for today. We're going to hear from people who are going to talk about all different kinds of play, surfing, football, improvisation, theatrical performance, storytelling, and some arts as well. So we're very happy that you're here. Let me tell you a little bit about me and my interest in play and why I'm hosting this. My interest in play and mental health and well-being and emotionality began when I was getting my PhD in developmental psychology, really interested in how is it that play is how children learn and develop? How does that happen? And subsequently went on and got very interested in social change and community organizing and therapy, unusual kinds of therapy. And I am the co-founder and director of the Eastside Institute, which began doing a group innovative group therapy that was based in helping people create community. We found that the best route to well-being is building community through others, building your group, et cetera, et cetera. And that expanded to the Eastside Institute now is a global center for the study and practice of social therapeutics that uses play and performance to help people grow. We are global. We began in New York, but we have over 200 associates around the world in about 35 countries who practice some form of our group-oriented community development, human development, mental health approach. Two of our panelists today actually are associates of that of our institute, Ishita Sanyal from India and Lizzie Adams from Nigeria, who is not on the screen yet. We hope she makes it. In addition, we have Tim Kolabar from South Africa, who started Waves for Change, and Mel Young from Scotland, from Edinburgh, who is going to be sharing his work with the Homeless World Cup. So we're thrilled that you're here with us today, and we're going to get started. Just a note, I said Lizzie Adams, and she is replacing in person Rita Ezenwa Akoro, who is had not planned to be in the airport going to Dubai right now. So she sent a video presentation, and then Lizzie will be here in person as the ambassador from her organization. Okay, so I just want to begin, lay the groundwork, I guess, for our panelists and their innovative work by sharing a quote from a very prominent anthropologist who is no longer with us, but I see that Lizzie says she's here, but she can't talk. So Lauren, maybe you can help Lizzie, who's writing in the chat that she, for some reason, can't be heard. Back to my little quote. So Brian Sutton Smith, kind of the founder of play studies in the world. He was an anthropologist, and one of the things he said that I is dear to my heart is that the opposite of play is not work. The opposite of play is depression. That's how I want to start this session. And I would love you all to keep that in mind as you speak and as you listen. So without further ado, let's hear from Tim and the extraordinary work of Waves for Change.
Thanks, Lou. Thank you very much for the introduction, also for hosting me. Like I said, my name's Tim Conybeare, based in Cape Town, South Africa, working for an organization called Waves for Change. We use sport as a vehicle to deliver mental health services to children growing up in under-resourced communities. So a lot of these are informal communities, township communities, as they're called in South Africa, where government investment in healthcare means that about 90% of children that need mental health support can't access it. What we're trying to do is use play as a way to repackage evidence-based methods for providing mental health support. Most of our work is based in the kind of prevention, promotion sphere, so preventing the escalation of early incidences of mental health challenges in young people, and trying to promote general population well-being. And I've got a few slides as to how we do it. I thought what might be useful is just share some of the information about what we know about how play works and some of the evidence for the practice. I see some of the slides coming up now. So this is how we operate. So we train local community members in this very simple coaching methodology. It uses sport to create these safe, nurturing, restorative environments for young people. So we use surfing as the tool to bring people together. It's quite a symbolic sport in South Africa that has its own legacy with beach apartheid. So we chose surfing as a kind of a symbolic, fun activity to bring people together. But these skill sets on the left-hand side, they can be used by coaches working across a variety of different sporting codes, and we support partners who use different sports to promote mental health. So on the one side, all our work is led by coaches. We have 50 coaches on the South African coastline, and they then provide what we call surf therapy programs to 2,500 children a week. These are children referred through state social services. And the way that we use play is we engineer these situations where children basically practice behaviors that help them either form stronger social connections with one another, learn how to cope with stress, or set kind of future intentions. So we don't really do a lot of education sitting around talking about what mental health is. It's all about what are things we can do in our life that help us form stronger connections with the people around us, that help us feel safer, or understand our strengths so that we can feel stronger. And the natural kind of benefits of sport kind of boost confidence. So as Waves for Change, we have 50 coaches along the coast of South Africa, 2,500 children attending one surfing session a week for 12 months. And it's a time-bound course, and we monitor and measure various different outputs that I'll run you through now. If we go to the next slide, this is a study that we published a couple of years ago. We were interested in how does sport bring people together, and how does change happen when children play together. So this was a study we did at one of our programs in Liberia, mostly qualitative information gleaned through interviews. And we found that when children play together, so on the left-hand side, you can see what went into this program. It was trained coaches, it was a beach, it was surfing equipment, and there was this kind of behavior activation curriculum that I mentioned on the previous slide. And we found when children play together, they form a beach family. So this social domain evolves. At the bottom is the sports surfing domain. It helps them build confidence. But when you engage in something that's quite challenging, you become quite focused on that task. So the broader social challenges fade away. So you get the sense of respite. And what binds a lot of it together is this behavior curriculum that we've kind of developed. The idea is that you're practicing. Sport has all these natural situations where you share a surfboard with someone, or you pass a football to someone, and you give someone a high five for pushing a ball over a net. There's all these very simple incidences, teachable moments that this behavior activation curriculum leverages. So the idea is it highlights all the incidences in the sports practice where you can praise someone or where you can share with someone. And what happens there is these are transferable skills that children take into their life. And what that leads to on the right-hand side are these kind of mental health improvements that I'll talk to on the next slide. So we do see we've learned some of the key active ingredients, I guess, of play programs. So if we go to the next slide, we're just interested then in, how does, when you combine play and caring mentors or caring coaches and these kind of, teachable moments that play naturally brings, what's the impact of that? So the last couple of years, we've been working with the New School for Social Science Research in New York. And we've been working with children coming from really complex environments. So our programs target children growing up in multidimensional poverty, or who come from a background of chronic adversity. And our goal is to really help them integrate these safe, integrated, fun spaces and improve their mental health. So this is the population that we were working with. These children attended one surfing session a week for 12 months. And we collected a few different metrics that looked at how they self-regulate and kind of implications for their mental health. So if you go to the next slide, and these are just some of the outcomes that we found. It's really encouraging, as it's great to see. On the left-hand side, we looked at a physiological measure. So we found when children talk about their emotions, especially when they're new to mental health interventions in South Africa, they don't have an emotional language to clearly articulate what it is they're feeling. So we worked with the New School to work out how can we get around the issue of language and exploring stress response. And we came up with heart rate variability as a measure. So we were looking at the physiological response that these children were having to their environments. And we measured at various different time points across the year. And we found a pretty profound, clinically relevant shift in the physiological health of these young people. Their stress levels were dropping, and they were finding it easier to settle as a result of engagement in this program. We also looked at how children are feeling. So this is a validated survey. It looks at how children, the types of emotions children experience and with what intensity. As you saw on the previous slide, the children coming into the programs came from backgrounds of genuine adversity, where they'll experience things like anxiety, fear with a lot of intensity. And what we found as children went through this kind of surfing play kind of environment where they praised each other, they shared with each other, they got lots of positive reinforcements from their coaches, their experience of these negative emotions decreased. So as their physiological health improved, we saw that their emotional health also improved. And again, that slide around what made that happen, it was the social domain that play created. The coaches were able to use sport in a way to bring people together in a very positive, praise-based environment where these attachments were being formed. The sport obviously helped children's confidence grow and forget about the broader stress, but the social attachments they were forming through play, it was, they were the transformative moments. So the final slide is what we do now, really. And these are guides and things that are open access on our websites. On the left-hand side is a coaching resource. So for any coach using any different type of sport, it's a coaching method to create these safe restorative environments using play. In the center are just a number of these behavior-based games. How can you create situations in a play based project where children naturally share with each other or praise one another. Lots of games there. And then on the right hand side is just this WhatsApp channel, so people can request and download different lesson plans and reading and videos and things through there. And it's openly available. We've been working with UNICEF and some partners in Somalia, which is why you see some of the pictures you do. But yeah, it just highlights, I think, that play is a really effective language to talk to young people. It can take clinically relevant interventions and shift them into these non-formal but much more child-friendly spaces, and that's what we're trying to do with Waves for Change. And there's a huge community that I'm sure are doing that as well. We know a lot of them on this call today. So yeah, we believe that play really does have a place when we start talking about mental health. I think people are realizing that now. The evidence is there. So yeah, it's just a pleasure to share some of that with you today, and thanks for having me on the call.
That's wonderful. Thank you. And if you put the website in the chat so that people can find those materials, it'd be really good, Tim. Thank you. So we're going to hear from everybody and then have as much of a conversation with each other and with you as possible. So let's move quickly to Ishita Sanyal in Calcutta, India, and her organization Turning Point.
Yeah. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Namaskar, namaste. So I think it is very interesting to talk about play. Play, and we are all adult people, whether it is benefited for adults or not. Now, before I start talking about play, I need to talk a little bit about Turning Point, where I introduced play almost 25 years back. Turning Point is an organization to reinitiate growth and development for people with chronic mental illness. And at that point of time, 25 years back, only inpatient facilities were available in India, where patients were administered some medicines and they would stay in the inpatient department. At that point of time, I thought that people with mental illness need an opportunity for development and not a mere diagnosis. They don't want to get trapped in a fixed role. People with mental illness. Because what happens when they're trapped in a fixed role? They think that their identities are making them a loner, where the society is rejecting these people and it is creating a social, political, economic, and emotional impact in their life. They're excluded from every opportunities of life. So soon I discovered that I need to travel in a completely unknown path. I introduced play at Turning Point for a very simple reason. I wanted to improve their quality of life, bring back joy, humor, hope, fun through these playful activities. Soon I discovered that play is bringing some changes in their lives. The members of Turning Point showed interest in all play activities, started laughing again, enjoying their lives, developed a bond with their friends at Turning Point while playing with them regularly. They started to think about their development and what they want to become in future. And even they developed the initiative to manage their emotions playfully. It was really surprising for me at that point of time. Play brought a transformation in their lives. Over the years, I realized that play helped them to develop a new self-identity in them, a sense of pride and prestige. They slowly started to control their impulses and emotions. And they showed interest in all the activities and developed a very cohesive bond between all their friends. It slowly increased their motivation, their functional level, and we have seen that it decreased their illness and relapse rates. So I think the most important aspect of play for adults with special needs is the opportunity to connect with others, and this creates the magic. In today's world, we have contacts with so many people. But even all of us, if we think, with how many people we can connect, with how many people we can open up, share, play, enjoy, and develop in a non-evaluative environment, I think very few. I want to give an example about how the family dynamics of these people also changed after lockdown. So after lockdown, we started our online session, and Deboshmita's father, who would previously come to our center, drop her daughter and return back. He was least interested to know about what his daughter was doing. So during the online session, he was assisting his daughter to do the online classes. So he was also participating in the playful sessions. And he slowly started liking it and started taking interest in Deboshmita's activities. He understood that to play this game, a person needs to be creative, imaginative, and focus on that subject matter. He was previously alcoholic, abusive towards both his wife and son. And this online sessions, playful sessions, completely changed the family dynamics. He left alcohol, and his relationship with his wife and, of course, daughter improved a lot. So his daughter can now get the support of his father. And I want to share another story, very short story. When my father was 89 years old, he started developing dementia, and he was completely disoriented. He was forgetting everything. And the doctor said that, okay, through medication, maybe it won't increase, but going back to the former life is impossible. So I introduced play, 1 hour play sessions for him, along with medications also. And at that point of time, my son was also going to get married. And I included him in the plans. And I started calling all my friends and relatives in our house so that he can have conversation. At first, he was a passive listener, but slowly, actually, we were not able to understand also when the change was happening. He started showing interest and started connecting with others. And I told him that you, being the head of the family, you will have to take care of everything. And right now, he remembers everything. And even during the marriage, he would assist me in all my works. I think connectivity, sense of pride, and a purpose for living, along with play, played the magic. And he's back to his normal life. Now, we asked Turning Point members that what Turning Point means to them. They have said few lines and we have transformed it into the song. Can we play the video, please?
From monotony, a journey from darkness to light. Turning point means a break from monotony, a journey from darkness to light. A turning point means connecting with community, inclusion, love and fun, fulfilled life as opportunity and exposure. Turning point is family to me. It's a center full of play and activity, a source of inspiration and moving forward as a fresh air of inclusion. Turning point ushers in group cooperation. Turning point ushers in group cooperation. It's a place for an unevaluated learning, developing community, spirit, love and bonding, developing community, spirit, love and bonding. Turning point is friendship, turning point is friendship, fun and wings to fly. It's a family which gives us reasons to soar high. Turning point rejuvenates our mind, body and soul. Sincere guidance, sincere guidance brings positivity and opens new doors. As a window of fresh air brings a change in life, as a window of fresh air brings a change in life, with lots of hope, love, wisdom, and freedom to fly. With lots of hope, love, and wisdom to fly.
No more frustration, no more woe. I'm sure there's someone to open the door. I don't want to be a loser, a failure, a loner. Sure, there's a turning point in my life. A turning point, a turning point, a turning point in life.
Lois, you are mute.
Yes, I just realized that I had tried to stop the dogs from barking and annoying you. Sorry, I said we have to move along here, and so we have time for conversation and the audience participation. So Mel, tell us about homeless football.
Okay, thank you very much. And once again, really pleased to be here, delighted, and can really empathize with the previous two speakers actually in terms of the outputs that they have and the inspiring work they do. So I'm a serial social entrepreneur. I've been working with homeless people since 1993. We set up the Homeless World Cup, which uses football or soccer as in some countries to work with homeless people in an attempt to change their lives. We work in over 70 countries around the world. We've impacted the life of 1.2 million people since we started. We have an annual event where homeless people represent their country in a competition. This year it's going to be held in Sacramento in the US for the first time in the US, but we've been in Cape Town before. We've been in Paris, Amsterdam, Mexico City, etc. And what we're doing is using the football to create change. We have some great events. A lot of people come, they get broadcast and so on. But our focus is really about the impact and change that can create. And obviously what we're trying to do is get to a situation where people are no longer homeless. And we've been successful in that. Huge percentage of the people involved have changed their lives as a direct result of being involved with the work we do in the countries through our partners. I guess the point today, though, that I want to talk about and really emphasize is the role that sport and play contribute to that change. So when we are first working with homeless people, and it's the same all over the world, they are the most excluded, marginalized, their self-esteem is dropped to zero, no confidence, self-respect is gone. They've kind of lost connection with society and don't really believe that any pathway is open to them. And some of them have quite complex needs. So sometimes it's just about not having a house, other times it's not having about a job, but it's usually a whole lot of issues crammed together. And so we're simply using the sport and the game as a way of including people. So when we start, we'd simply go to people in the street and say, would you like to play football? And the beauty of this is it's really simple. All you need is a ball. And actually you can be no good at this game or very good at it, and you can mix together and you can have 2 people in a game or 20 or 30. You can play anywhere, and we go to where homeless people are, which is in the street, and set up soccer fields. And what we do then is we create teams to play against each other, and these teams become in some ways part of a family. So we're saying, hey, look, you know, you had the first game. Do you want to come back tomorrow because you're really important because you're the goalkeeper? And if you don't come, the team's going to suffer. So getting some connection with that family, and that works for us. People feel that they have some role to play, and then simply we're rebuilding self-esteem, self-respect through playing this game. And it's really, really powerful. This first stage of what we're doing is the most powerful factor in the change that's created, getting people to believe in something through the game. And then basically we're destroying stereotypes. So really for our homeless people who are referred to in many ways, different descriptions of homeless people, we call them footballers or sports people. That's who we refer to them. You're the goalkeeper or the forward or the goal scorer. And then once a year, we have this competition where homeless people come to represent their country, as I say. And there you actually see magic happening, because in front of your eyes, the homeless people are now representing their country, playing in their jerseys. We get crowds to come along and have created a game which is kind of simple to play, and everybody's cheering. And we have teams at a very different standards. So some of them are very, very good. And we create a competition whereby the very good teams are playing against each other. And then some teams are just not so good, to be honest, and they play against each other. And everybody finds their own position. So what it is, it's a very inclusive competition, but it's also competitive. So it's not patronizing, it's real, and people want to win the games, but it's also very inclusive. So at the end, everyone gets a position, but everybody gets the same medal. So I have some slides very quickly I want to show before I finish, and then I want to just make another point about this. So if we could stop the slides, that would be great. So if we just move on to the next slide, please. Thank you. I just want to show, I've got 4 or 5 pictures here. I just want to show which And the pictures, I think, just capture what I'm talking about. So this is our competition here in Santiago. And we have a men's and women's competition. This is Chile winning it. And all I would say is look at the faces of the people involved in that picture, and you'll see the change that's taking place, the joy that they've had being involved in that game. And all they're doing is simply playing a game. And the change is profound in terms of where these people were before to where they are now in this picture. Next slide. Thank you. And then what we have here is Brazil. Obviously, they love the football. And here they are all dancing around with the other teams. Everybody understands where they've come from. So they've come from homelessness, come from exclusion, and they can't speak the same language, but they understand football and they understand where they've come from. So the bonds between the teams, despite the fact that they're playing competitively, is brilliant. And the Brazilians are good dancers as well as good footballers. Next slide, please. This is teams together again. It's Poland and Romania, and this has been played in Mexico City. And then next slide, please. This is the Indonesian team. So you can see from all over the world, you can see the same smiles on their faces, the same joy of participating. In Indonesia are always a team that everybody loves when they come because of the way they react with the crowd. And then the final slide, it's just all the same I'm showing you here, really. And this is Bulgaria winning, and it's the third tier. So it's not the top cup, but you'd think they won the World Cup the way they were carrying on. They were so excited. So what we're doing here, so that's the end of the slides. So what we're doing here is creating something that's really great fun. It's about play essentially and about sport, although we're talking about some very, very serious issues. Some people have been really marginalized and some big challenges. So just as a way of finishing here, I want to just illustrate that, in my opinion, play, which often is associated with fun and correct, but it's always at the margins of any interventions in terms of change, and so is sport. To me, actually, they should be much more central to solutions for governments and countries. Play and sport have a very, very important role in tackling many of the very serious issues that there are in society. And we should look at it not as something that's on the periphery of what we're doing, but central to people's mental health, mental well-being. And we know actually that it can make profound change to individuals and groups of individuals. So I'll stop there because, you know, we want to try and have some time for discussion, but delighted to meet everybody and hope enjoy the contribution. Thank you.
Thank you, Mel. That point is so well taken. There's so much research that backs up what you're saying about the centrality of it. And we have to just keep working on policy. Our last panelist, Elizabeth Adams from Nigeria, is a ambassador to Street Project Foundation, and we welcome her here. She's Rita Ezenwa Okoro, the founder and president of Street Project Foundation, sent a video, and I'd like to just start with that, Lizzie, and then go to you. Is that okay? So could we have the first, it's Rita talking herself. There we go. Thank you.
Part of this panel. I'm currently in Doha en route to Dubai and had to get this video recorded in the airport. So you're going to be hearing quite a lot of sound bites, but bear with me. Mental health is a topic so dear to my heart. And as one who has been working in the youth development sector for years, I have seen how play and performance gives young people the agency to freely express themselves, to freely express their emotions in spaces that are not prescriptive of the solutions to their mental health challenges, but rather exploratory and a discovery of what is possible through the lessons learned from their peers in well-curated, playful spaces. At Street Project Foundation, an organization I founded 15 years ago, we call these well-curated spaces circles of trust. We also deploy our United Nations award-winning methodology called Reflection Sessions, a social therapeutic approach to human development. which embraces the use of play in engaging in tough conversations such as disability rights and limitations, sexual abuse, lack of support from family members, and chronic mental health challenges like bipolar and schizophrenia. In these circles, regardless of gender, they are compelled to bear their heart out, be vulnerable through it all. In the process, they begin to make decisions that impact on their lives positively. At Street Project Foundation also, we've experimented further with the use of play and performance in creating spaces where we can play curiosity and create an environment where tough conversations about people's mental health can be discussed. One of such experiments is the Alafia project. Alafia in Yoruba language translates to peace of mind. What we did in this project was to have reflective conversations with 3 young people in our community, with their peers watching and observing and developing scripts about their mental health struggles. And such stories were stories about a single mother, a person with disability and their challenges, a teenager with gender conflicts. Their stories formed the creation of 3 vignettes titled Folashade, Listen and Let Us Pray, and a guide manual that stimulates playful curiosity about the stories created for video and stimulates tough conversations was created. Here's one of the vignettes created after it is viewed for the next 3 minutes. I'm glad that I'm ably represented on the panel by the Secretary General of the Youth Advisory Board of Street Project Foundation and a graduate and an associate of the ESI, Eastside Institute, and also Street Project Ambassador by name Elizabeth Adams. Thank you so much. I'm sure that you're going to have such a wonderful conversation about the role of play and performance in mental health.
So now we would want the second video that Rita just mentioned. If we could see that video. Do we have, I was told we have the second video that Rita just mentioned, but if you can't find it, we will move on. Okay, so let me know if you find it. Thank you, Rita. And hello, Elizabeth.
Okay, yeah.
If you'd like
Hello,
to, yes, if you'd like to add anything briefly to what Rita shared with us in her video, and then we'll open it up.
Oh, of course. Hello, everyone. I am Elizabeth Adams, as earlier stated, and I am so delighted to have this conversation. So, like Rita actually said about the Alafia project, it is a project done by ambassadors just like myself from the Street Project Foundation. So the Street Project Foundation is an enterprise, a social enterprise that engages youths in Nigeria below the poverty line. We all come together regardless of the labels. I would use the word labels, societal labels that has been put on people. We build, we co-create, doing what we love. So one of the videos that was going to be shown that wasn't found was the one on Let Us Pray. Now, Let Us Pray is a video about a young teenager who has gender conflicts. So he is expected to perform masculinity. He's expected to be manly. We know how societies and the expectations that are placed on us young people and even on people generally, and how we are able to manage these. We do not even expect that we should manage it. I feel like, and with the Street Project Foundation's understanding of performances, everyone is free to co-create, to learn and explore as they are. regardless of what society's put on us. So this young person struggles through the process of realization of self, understanding self, and then eventually going through the process. So we are concerned majorly about how people grow, especially young people, and we mostly focus on their mental wellness. Street Project Foundation, the reflection series and sessions that Mrs. Rita Izemwa just talked about, I benefited from that project as a person living with disability in Nigeria, a person with albinism. There was so much I needed to unburden. There was so much I needed to share. And I needed that safe space, that circle of trust, that place where I could explore using my creative side and without judgments. And that was what I got at the Street Project Foundation. There I met like minds like me, young creatives who were burning with a passion to realize themselves, to recreate the world, and to meet with people. And together, we all developed. We are still developing. We did the process of being and becoming, and at the same time, we learned. So yes, these are some of the things I would just like to add to the conversation. And as we move further, I look forward to having more. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I could listen to all of you all day long. I don't know. I hope our participants feel similarly, have just so passionate and wise. And the work that you do is so simple and so complex at the same time. It's like, I really want to reiterate what Mel said about how it needs to come off the back burner, this kind of work, and be front and center. And it's very frustrating, the approaches to well-being and mental health that dominate and that policymakers try to institute, because this is what works. So I would love to have people put their comments and questions in the Q&A, and we will all do our best to respond to them. And I don't see one yet, so I want to start off with a question for all of you. You all in different ways have mentioned something that seems so important to me for both developing our communities, our families, ourselves, and indeed the world, which is that the work that you do, whatever kind of play it is, it challenges the identities that lock us in. And I wondered if each of you could speak just as a little bit more about that. Anybody?
Yeah, I could respond briefly if that helps. I guess I think Mel said something really powerful around the identity of a goalkeeper, of a team member. A friend of mine set up an amazing charity called Surfers Not Street Children. So the young people living on the street, they adopt the identity of a surfer. The idea of being involved in play, you do become part of a new tribe, a new family. That's kind of what we found through the research, as well as when young people come to a Waves for Change program, much like the Homeless World Cup, they become part of a surfing community. And so they adopt all the identity that brings with it. So it's a huge boost to their confidence, their self-esteem. If you've been in South Africa, we work with children coming out of really difficult circumstances. Self-esteem is not good. Self-respect as well, they engage in lots of quite damaging health behaviors, but when you adopt a new self-image that play allows you to do, that behavior does start changing. So I think the images that Mel shared for me were really powerful. I really love those, Mel. Just that you can see the transformation there. But yeah, the identity part of it is huge, and play does that really quickly, really naturally, in ways that I actually think lots of other therapy sometimes struggle to do. So just my 2 cents on it.
Thank you, Tim.
So
no, let me go.
Go ahead, Ishita.
Yeah. Shall I say?
Yes.
Yeah. If we talk about identity, I think in India, of course, previously the stigma was more, though the stigma is less now. But when people hear the word mental health, they always think about mental illness, about a particular phase, which is very bizarre look. And they think that people with mental illness cannot think properly, cannot do anything properly. They are aggressive, they are dangerous people. And I think when a person starts suffering from mental illness, apart from all the challenges that he is facing because of the illness, the most difficult challenge is facing the stigma, what the society, how the society is visualizing them. And everywhere they feel the rejection, that they are not accepted, there is no opportunity for them. So I think play really changes the scenario, because when they are playing with like-minded people, and they playfully learn that they are capable, they can do something positive, they can love, they can share, they can create something, they find themselves in a new identity, which is far away from that particular identity where they are labeled as person with mental illness. And I think this creates a magic. Of course, there can be the role of medication, but I think this also creates a huge impact in their life, and it gives the motivation to move forward and think about development, who they want to become.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that who they want to become and imagining and creating that, making it real is really important. Mel, you were going to say something?
Yeah, obviously I agree with this strongly. I think one of the other things to think about is just the way we live in the world now. Everyone has to be in a silo and everyone has to have a label. And I think that that's quite dangerous. So one of the things we do, obviously play in sport, we've got lots of evidence of the change it creates and how people's mental health has suffered through homelessness and how we've been able to change that through the play. But I think the other thing that's very important is that you've got to change other people as well. So they're not homeless people who are watching. So, you know, in many cases with us, when we've had our event, people might have seen homeless people or young people being in the street and sitting begging or whatever, and that's their view of a homeless person. And then the next day they see somebody playing football representing their country, and it changes their view of homeless people forever, actually, because they think, oh, they see somebody in the street again and think, oh, could be a football player. That person could be a football player. So whilst we are obviously focused absolutely on our people who work with the homeless people and use of football, and we know the change, we actually have to be working with others, which is the wider audience, the media, governments, etc., to change the stereotypical view. And I think that that's in some ways our job. Is as important as obviously the day-to-day work we do, is convincing others in the outside world that actually this really works, and better resource and better understanding would make an even bigger difference.
Thank you. Lizzie?
Yeah, of course, I agree with all three of the speakers just now, and I just want to add that play is an open opportunity for varieties of identities and performances, and through play we can actually be who we think we are not, because we really do not know who we are until play. When play comes on board, we are exposed to quite a variety. And one of the things play does, and one of the beauty of play, is that it removes us from the mindset of inclusion. So that the thought that people should be grateful because they are included. In play, we do not see someone else as being included to a circle. We see everyone as a part of that circle. Everyone is a participative performer in that circle. And as such, there are no labels. There are no identities. There are no restrictions. There are no limitations to who we can be collectively and individually. Like the last speaker said, he said that through play, people can become inspired with the lives of others as well. So it is inspiring to realize that other people are looking at us, learning from us, and we learn from them as well. And that is one of the things we have achieved so far in the Street Project Foundation. Through play, we have performed art. Through play, we have led movements. Through play, we have done lots of creative works. And so far, so good. Most of us come out from this reflection series having a new sense of self, a new importance, and a new thought about what we can create, how we can impact our world generally. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh my goodness. The thing about play and performance that you're saying that I think we would have to have the policymakers and legislators, et cetera, see and experience is that you actually develop new ways to see and to be. It's not a Band-Aid. It's not like fun necessarily, but it literally transforms so that in the creating of the play environment and the creating of the play together, whether it's a game or a sport or a play or an improvisation or a dance, what you're doing in the connecting and in what Lizzie was just saying about inclusion and the inclusion being something that really says you're an outsider. But when you're playing, what you all have been describing in your work is there are no outsiders because you're creating it together. And that is curative. As Ishita said, it's a cure. It's not a Band-Aid. It's not oh, now these people can feel good for 10 minutes. And the evidence that Tim and Mel have for their work is in their research is also clear evidence. So yeah, a lot of work to do to foster this and get this word out. Tim, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I think just responding, I think some of the questions in the chat around how we can grow the movement as well. I think we need to look at the other side as well. Because sport and play can be harmful if it's done in certain forms as well. Sport can also be very competitive. It can favor the stronger people, the more confident people. So there is definitely a skill set to bring people that don't have confidence into the game meaningfully, to include people that might not self-select meaningfully. And I think that's where the policy makers sometimes push back, is we can be quite evangelical that play can solve everything. There's a really powerful paper around how sport recreated the same conditions as the militias in Uganda that was published by a fellow called Justin Richards, which is worth reading. And it's and the mental health impact of that project was found to be harmful on the children that attended. So it was introducing structured football programs to Uganda, and the coaches took on many of the same traits as the militia leaders. So I think there is definitely a huge place for sport and play. I mean, we're all huge advocates of it. I think to get meaningful engagement at policy level as well, probably needs to be some type of understanding that there is a specific way that play needs to be inclusive of everyone, and that's a skill set that maybe needs to be recognized.
Right.
So I think, yeah, there is the other side to the coin. If we're too evangelical, I think sometimes we will get a bit of pushback. Sorry,
Yeah,
there's not the most
okay.
positive message.
So we are, I think we are doing our best to respond to the questions and queries, even though we're not reading them all. But Tim, there are a couple of them for you. Water is Healing. Do you implement surf therapy program sessions with attention deficit disorder, anxiety, depression? If so, how? Another question, how do you identify coaches and what support do you give them?
Yes, so the programs we run in South Africa are actually very broad in the populations we work with. We do work with a lot of children who arrive from autism units within government schools, which is an underserved population. We work with a lot of children referred from the Department of Education for attention challenges. In South Africa, the diagnostics aren't great. So what we found is when you introduce children to these caring, loving, supportive environments where they get lots of recognition, where their self-image changes, the impact across a very broad range of people is very uniform, which is great because it shows that as an intervention, it is quite broad in who it can work with. And then in terms of the coaches, I think that's the most important one. So we found that the coaches that we recruit need to be relatable to the people that they're working with. I mean, I'm sure Mel knows more than enough about this and could probably preaching to the choir. But if you're going to be working with people that probably have lost a little bit of trust in society because of what society's done to them, if they're not engaging with people they can relate to, that they feel connected with, then the programs will fall flat. It's the same concept as when you go and see a counsellor. If you don't form that bond with that person, it's not going to work. And then those coaches need support. So yes, we can train them. They can go to these once-off trainings. They can get all the skills they need. But if they're not debriefed and supervised on a weekly basis, then it's tricky. So if you work with Ways for Change, you tend to be 18 to 24 years old, a recent school leaver from one of the same communities that we work in. You get a 2-year contract with us. So the idea is that you're consistently employed so you can build these lasting relationships with the people you work with. They get trained at the beginning of the year. It's a pretty immersive 2-week training. And then every week they debrief with a child psychologist and they get additional top-up training from our team. So they're always learning, they're always progressing. Because that we've just learned, like the active ingredient, the biggest ingredient in the whole program is the coach. If they can form that bond, then you can build everything around that attachment. But if you don't have that, then it's a challenge. And that's where we've seen a lot of the scaling issues come in. Putting the wrong people in leadership positions of the programs, and it's hard. It's where these interventions become quite complex.
Yeah.
If I could just add for quickly 20 seconds on back that up, that'll go into detail. One of the things that we found that really works is that our coaches are former homeless people, so they've become players. So they became players and then wanted to give something back, and now they're coaches. And it's wonderful because the homeless people might say to them, "Hey, you don't know what it's like being where I am," and they go, "Yep, I used to be you," and that is very, very powerful. So we find that having coaches who've been formerly homeless or through our programs before and then come back as leaders can be transformational.
Right. Thank you. We have 1 minute, I think. Unfortunately, that's all. I think that everybody can save the chat or at least look at it. There's ways to connect with each of these wonderful people as well as myself. And I just want to leave everyone. I started with the opposite of play is not work, it's depression. I want to leave it the cure. The cure is creating playful spaces. The cure for you, if you are depressed, is to find others to connect with and create a space where you can challenge that identity and those feelings. So thank you so much. Again, thank you participants, listeners, for being here with us and spending this hour and learning hopefully something new and something exciting. I know that there were people El Salvador, Mexico in the chat who are very, very interested in connecting. And thank you for Glasswing for allowing us to share our work with you. Thank you.